"You're just a burden to this family," my sister sneered as she took over my room. "Nobody wants you here anyway," her husband added. I packed quietly the next morning. Their perfect life crumbled. I first noticed something was off when I heard whispers coming from our kitchen at 2 a.m. Living with my parents again at 28 wasn't ideal, but after Dad's stroke 8 months ago, it made sense. Mom needed to keep working for the insurance, and someone had to be here during the day. Besides, working remotely made it possible. That night, I'd gone down for water when I heard my sister and her husband, Adrian, talking in hushed tones. They didn't visit often, maybe once every few weeks, so finding them in our kitchen in the middle of the night was strange. I paused at the bottom of the stairs, wondering if I should make my presence known. "The market's perfect right now," Adrian was saying. "We just need to convince them it's the best option for everyone." "Sebastian's the problem," Ivy replied. "He's always been Dad's favorite. You know how they are." I stood there, glass in hand, feeling like I'd stumbled into something I wasn't supposed to hear. The way they were talking, it reminded me of when we were kids, and Ivy would plan how to convince our parents to let her do something they'd already said no to. The next morning, they were all smiles at breakfast. Mom was making pancakes, her way of making everything feel normal since Dad's stroke, when Ivy cleared her throat. "So, we have some news," she announced, reaching for Adrian's hand. "We're selling our house." Mom nearly dropped the spatula. "Selling? But you love that house," Adrian jumped in. "We've been thinking about family lately, about being closer, especially with Dad's condition." I watched Dad's face. He was still struggling with some words, but his eyes were sharp as ever. Something flickered there. Confusion, maybe concern. "We thought," Ivy continued, her voice honey-sweet, "we could move in here, just temporarily, of course, to help out." That's when I noticed Adrian's eyes dart to me, just for a second, but enough. "Sebastian's room would be perfect for us," Ivy added. "He can work from anywhere, right?" The kitchen went quiet, except for the sizzle of pancakes starting to burn. Mom turned off the stove, her movements careful, measured. "Sebastian's been here taking care of your father," she said slowly. "Every day, and we're so grateful." Adrian stepped in smoothly. "But let's be practical. 2 able-bodied adults would be more helpful than 1. Plus, we could contribute to the household expenses." I sat there, forks suspended midair, watching this performance unfold. In the 8 months I'd been here, Ivy had visited exactly 6 times. 3 of those visits lasted less than an hour. Things escalated quickly after that. Over the next week, Ivy and Adrian were constantly around. They'd show up unannounced, always with some reason to be in different parts of the house. I caught Adrian in Dad's study twice, claiming he was just looking for a pen. The second time, he was by Dad's filing cabinet. The comments started subtle, but grew bolder. "It must be nice living rent-free," or "Don't you think it's time you got your own place?" Always when our parents weren't within earshot. Last night was what broke me. I was helping Dad with his evening physical therapy exercises when Ivy burst in with Adrian. "We need to talk," she announced. "Mom and Dad are asleep." I helped Dad settle into his chair, but before I could respond, Adrian was blocking the doorway. Ivy stood in front of me, arms crossed. "You need to stop fighting this," she said. "You're just a burden to this family." "Excuse me?" "Look at you," Adrian added, his voice dripping with contempt. "Almost 30, living with Mommy and Daddy. Nobody wants you here anyway." I looked at them, really looked. Ivy's designer outfit couldn't hide how tired she looked. Adrian's usual polished appearance was slipping. His shirt was wrinkled, and there was a desperation in his eyes I'd never seen before. "If you really cared about this family," Ivy continued, "you'd step aside. Let people who actually know how to handle things take over." I glanced at Dad's chair, but they'd chosen their moment well. He dozed off during our conversation. Looking back, I'm grateful he didn't hear his children like this. I didn't argue, didn't defend myself. Something in their desperation set off alarm bells I couldn't ignore. Instead, I went upstairs and packed a bag, called a nearby extended stay hotel, made a reservation. But before I left, I did 2 things. First, I ordered some small cameras, the kind people use for home security. Nothing fancy, just enough to keep an eye on things. Mom agreed when I suggested installing them for Dad's safety. The look of relief in her eyes told me she'd noticed something too. Second, I made some calls about getting Dad's accounts flagged for suspicious activity. Call it paranoia, but finding Adrian near those financial documents didn't sit right with me. I moved out this morning. Ivy and Adrian looked triumphant, but something felt off about their victory. The way Adrian immediately started measuring the windows in my old room, how Ivy was already talking about updating Dad's study. I'm writing this from my hotel room, watching the camera feed on my laptop. They think I've given up, walked away. They don't know, I've just moved my pieces into position. Mom texted me an hour ago. "Adrian asked about your father's pension paperwork. Said he wanted to help organize things. I'm meeting with a lawyer tomorrow morning. Sometimes the best way to protect your family is to let others think they've won." I thought I'd feel worse about leaving. But watching Adrian rifle through Dad's desk drawer right now, I know I made the right call. The cameras are recording everything. They wanted my room. They can have it. But I have a feeling they're about to learn why you shouldn't underestimate the quiet one in the family. Update 1. It's been 24 hours since my last post, and I wish I could say I was just being paranoid. The cameras I installed before leaving captured everything. What I discovered makes me feel sick. I spent last night reviewing the footage while trying to get comfortable in my hotel room. Around 11 p.m., after our parents went to bed, Ivy and Adrian had what they thought was a private conversation in my old room. The audio quality isn't perfect, but what I heard was clear enough. "We don't have a choice anymore," Adrian was saying, pacing back and forth. "The deadline's in 2 weeks." Ivy sat on my old bed, head in her hands. I know, but forging Dad's signature, Adrian, if we get caught. If we don't do this, we'll lose everything. The house isn't just being sold, Ivy. We're being evicted. Do you want everyone to know that? That caught my attention. They weren't selling their house at all. The conversation got worse. Adrian started talking about the investment opportunity that went wrong, about clients who were threatening legal action. He mentioned numbers that made my stomach turn, the kind of numbers that ruin lives. "Your parents' house has so much equity," he said. "If we can just get the refinancing approved." "But Sebastian's going to notice," Ivy interrupted. "He's always checking on their accounts. That's why we needed him gone. Look, I've got the paperwork ready. We just need your dad's signature. Once we have that, we can access enough to cover what we need, and no one will know." I watched my sister, the same sister who used to sneak me cookies when Mom said no, who taught me how to ride a bike, nod slowly. "What about the retirement accounts?" That's when I stopped the footage and called the bank. Not our parents' local branch, but their corporate fraud department. The lady on the phone was incredibly helpful once I explained the situation. Turns out someone had already attempted to submit a mortgage application in Dad's name. It was flagged because the signature didn't match their records. I spent the rest of the night documenting everything. This morning I met with an elder law attorney. The meeting was eye-opening. Apparently, what Adrian and Ivy were attempting wasn't just morally wrong, it was a federal crime. The attorney helped me file for an emergency guardianship hearing and contacted the relevant authorities. But the real bombshell came when I decided to do some digging into Adrian's background. Public records are fascinating things. There's a pending investigation against him for financial misconduct, multiple complaints filed by former clients. His company's been quietly asking people to remove online reviews that mention his name. I needed to tell our parents, but I wanted to be smart about it. Instead of confronting Ivy and Adrian directly, I went to the house while they were out house hunting. Their cover for whatever they were really doing. Mom was in the kitchen when I arrived, trying to teach Dad how to use his new adaptive utensils. The normality of the scene hit me hard. They had no idea what their own daughter was planning. "Sebastian?" Mom looked surprised. "I thought you were staying at the hotel for a while." I sat down at the kitchen table, pulled out my laptop, and showed them the footage. Mom's face went pale when she heard Ivy and Adrian's conversation. Dad's hands started shaking, not from his condition, but from anger. "There's more," I said gently. "Mom, remember those papers Ivy's been asking you to sign? The ones about helping with the bills?" Mom's eyes widened. She rushed to get her purse and pulled out a stack of documents. The attorney had warned me about this. Power of attorney forms, transfer of property documents, loan applications, all of them waiting for signatures. "I almost signed them yesterday," Mom whispered. "Ivy said it was to help with Dad's medical expenses." Dad managed to say what we were all thinking. "Stop them." I showed them the legal documents I'd prepared with the attorney. Forms to protect their assets, revoke any previous powers of attorney, and alert their bank to the attempted fraud. They signed everything immediately. As I write this, I'm still at their house. Ivy and Adrian are due back any minute. They don't know that their mortgage application was rejected. They don't know about the cameras. They don't know that I've spent the day helping our parents secure everything they own. The doorbell just rang. Mom's gone to answer it. It should be the attorney I hired, right on schedule. We're having a family meeting in exactly 1 hour. When Ivy and Adrian return, everything's going to come out. I can hear a car pulling into the driveway now. I've moved the camera in the living room to get a better angle. Our parents are ready. The attorney is here. Time to see how my sister explains attempting to steal our father's life savings. I'll update again after the meeting. Something tells me this isn't going to go the way Ivy and Adrian planned. Update 2. I've been staring at my screen for an hour, trying to figure out how to write this update. The family meeting happened 3 days ago, and I'm still processing everything that went down. Let me start with the moment Ivy and Adrian walked through the door. They were laughing about something, shopping bags in hand, acting like they didn't have a care in the world. The laughter died when they saw everyone in the living room. Mom and Dad on the couch, me in Dad's armchair, and a stranger in a suit sitting at our dining room table with a stack of papers. "What's going on?" Ivy's voice wavered slightly. Her eyes darted between all of us, lingering on the papers. Adrian stepped forward, smooth as ever. "Is everything okay? We weren't expecting a family gathering." "Sit down," Dad said. His speech has been improving, and he chose this moment to demonstrate it perfectly. Now they sat. I noticed how Ivy's hand trembled as she set her shopping bags aside. Adrian loosened his collar slightly, a nervous tick I'd never noticed before. Mom spoke first, her voice steady but sad. "We know about the mortgage application, Ivy, the one with your father's forged signature." The color drained from Adrian's face. Ivy started to speak, but he cut her off. "There must be some mistake." I opened my laptop and played the video. Their late-night conversation about the eviction, the fraud, everything. The room filled with their own voices, their own confessions. You recorded us? Ivy whispered, her face a mix of shock and betrayal. After finding Adrian going through Dad's financial documents? Yes, I did. That's when everything exploded. Adrian jumped up, pointing at me. You had no right. This is invasion of privacy. We could sue. Sit down. The attorney's voice cut through Adrian's outburst like a knife. Before we discuss the multiple federal crimes you've attempted to commit, let's talk about your current legal situation. He began laying out documents, the pending investigation against Adrian, the complaints from clients, the evidence of attempted identity theft. With each new paper, Adrian seemed to shrink into the couch. Then came the revelation that stopped everyone cold. The attorney had discovered that Adrian had already opened 3 credit cards in Dad's name. He'd been using them for months. Ivy's face crumpled. Adrian, you said we were just going to borrow against the house. You never said. What was I supposed to do? He snapped. After the investment went south, everyone wanted their money back. Your shopping sprees weren't helping either. My shopping? Ivy's voice rose. What about the gambling sites on our credit card statement? It was like watching a dam break. Every secret, every lie they'd been keeping from each other came pouring out. The house they were selling was actually in foreclosure. Adrian's company was under investigation for mismanaging client funds. Ivy had been hiding their financial troubles from everyone, including our parents, out of shame. Dad sat through it all, his face growing sterner with each revelation. When the shouting finally died down, he spoke slowly, deliberately. You tried to steal from us. Daddy, no, Ivy protested, tears streaming down her face. We were desperate. We were going to pay it back. With what money? Mom's question hung in the air. Nobody had an answer. The attorney cleared his throat. Here's what's going to happen. First, Mr. and Mrs. Sebastian, your parents, have signed papers revoking any power of attorney and adding fraud alerts to all their accounts. Second, the credit card companies have been notified of the identity theft. Third, he looked directly at Adrian. The authorities have been notified of your attempts to defraud your in-laws. Adrian stood up so fast he knocked over a lamp. You can't prove anything. Ivy, tell them we were just trying to help. But Ivy wasn't looking at him anymore. She was staring at the floor, shoulders shaking. How much did you steal from your clients? The question seemed to deflate him. I can fix this. I just need time. Time's up, the attorney said, nodding toward the window. 2 police cars had pulled up outside. What followed was surreal. Adrian was escorted out in handcuffs, ranting about how everyone had betrayed him. Ivy sat on our couch, mascara running, looking lost. Mom went to the kitchen and started stress baking, her way of coping. Dad wheeled himself to his study, saying he needed time to think. I found Ivy in my old room later that night, after the police had gone. She was sitting on my bed, looking at an old photo of us as kids. I didn't know about the credit cards, she whispered. I knew we were in trouble, but I didn't know how bad. He kept saying he could fix everything if we just had access to Dad's equity. I wanted to believe him. Why didn't you come to us for help? She looked up, her face torn between shame and relief, because admitting everything was falling apart meant admitting I failed, that my perfect life was a lie. The police called this morning. They found evidence on Adrian's laptop of extensive financial fraud. He wasn't just stealing from family, his entire business was built on lies. Ivy's meeting with a divorce lawyer tomorrow. I moved back home today. My room still smells like Ivy's perfume, but the shopping bags are gone. Mom stress-baked enough cookies to feed an army. Dad's been quieter than usual, but he squeezed my hand when I sat next to him for evening TV. There's a family counseling session scheduled for next week. Ivy's agreed to attend. The attorney says there's still a lot to sort out legally, but at least the immediate threat to our parents' finances has been stopped. Sometimes doing the right thing feels terrible. But watching Mom sleep peacefully tonight, knowing their retirement is safe, makes it worth it. As for Ivy, well, that's a longer road ahead. Final update. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. Well, I've spent 6 months in the kitchen, and dinner is finally ready. Remember Adrian? The one who tried to steal my parents' life savings and called me a burden? He's currently sharing a cell with someone who doesn't appreciate his financial advice. But that's just the appetizer. Let me catch you up on how everything unfolded after my last update. I didn't just sit back and let the justice system handle things. I got methodical. Remember those cameras I installed? They caught more than just conversations about fraud. They recorded every phone call Adrian made from our house, every document he accessed, every email he checked on our Wi-Fi. I hired a forensic investigator to go through everything. Turns out, Adrian wasn't just stealing from family and clients. He was running a whole network of schemes. The investigators found offshore accounts, fake companies, and a trail of victims going back years. Each discovery was like unwrapping a gift. But here's where it gets interesting. Remember how Ivy was always flaunting their perfect life on social media? Designer clothes, expensive vacations, that house they were so proud of, all bought with stolen money. And thanks to something called proceeds of crime laws, everything had to be sold to repay their victims. Ivy's facing her own consequences. During the divorce proceedings, evidence emerged that she knew more than she claimed. Those shopping sprees, paid for with stolen client funds. The vacations, funded by elderly victims' retirement accounts. Her perfect social media life crashed spectacularly when everything went public. The best part? I found Adrian's hidden laptop in our attic last month. He'd stashed it there during the chaos of moving in. The files on it were encrypted, but I know people who know people. What we found was better than Christmas. Emails, hundreds of them. Adrian bragging to friends about how he was manipulating my sister, how he planned to drain my parents' accounts, how he saw our family as an easy mark. He even had a spreadsheet calculating how much he could steal before anyone noticed. I sent copies to everyone, his family, his friends, his old college buddies, every country club member he bragged to about his success, every person who ever believed his self-made man's story. The responses were satisfying, but I saved the real fireworks for last. Remember those clients he stole from? I tracked them down, all of them, made sure they had copies of everything, the evidence, the emails, his prison details. Some of them were elderly couples who lost their entire retirement. Others were small business owners who trusted him with their life savings. They formed a support group. They're suing not just Adrian, but his entire family who benefited from the stolen money. His parents, who lived in that vacation house he bought them with stolen funds. They're losing it. His brother, who got investments for his startup, companies being liquidated. Ivy tried to play the victim card, but those shopping spree receipts told a different story. The bankruptcy court was particularly interested in her designer handbag collection. Apparently, buying luxury items with stolen money is frowned upon. She's working at a mall now, the same mall where she used to drop thousands on shopping sprees. Last week, Adrian's cellmate started sharing stories on prison forums about Adrian's daily life behind bars. Apparently, he cries himself to sleep. His tough guy act lasted about 2 days before reality set in. He tried to use his financial expertise to gain respect, but that went about as well as you'd expect in a place full of people who hate fraudsters. Mom's doing better. She's actually smiling again. Dad's speech therapy is showing real progress. Turns out, stress was making his recovery harder. They're taking a vacation next month, their first in years. I made sure it's paid for with legitimate funds, unlike some people's trips. Oh, and that emergency guardianship I filed for? The court made it permanent. I now legally control all family financial decisions. Every penny Adrian tried to steal is not only safe, but has been invested properly. The returns are already paying for Dad's medical care. The karma train wasn't finished, though. Last month, a documentary maker contacted me. They're doing a series on financial fraudsters, and Adrian's case is going to be episode 1. I gave them everything, the recordings, the emails, the evidence of his elaborate schemes. His face is going to be famous, just not in the way he planned. Ivy called yesterday, asking to meet. Said she has things she wants to explain. I agreed, but not at home. We're meeting at the courthouse cafe. Seemed fitting. I've got a recorder ready, just in case she tries to spin more lies. Adrian's got 15 years to think about his choices. His appeals were denied last week. His former clients are making sure his story is shared in every financial forum, every investment group, every place he might try to restart his schemes after release. Sometimes I sit in my old room, the one they tried to take, and read the letters from Adrian's victims thanking me for exposing him. Each one feels like vindication. The quiet one in the family? Not so quiet anymore. They wanted to destroy my family for their greed. Instead, they destroyed themselves, and I got to watch it happen, one perfectly legal, methodically planned step at a time. Dad said something interesting yesterday. Sometimes the best revenge isn't what you do to them, he said, his speech clearer than ever. It's making sure they live with what they did to themselves. I'm meeting Ivy in an hour. The recorder's charged, and I've got copies of every document showing her involvement. Time to serve the last course of this cold, cold dish. This will be my final update. Some stories end with forgiveness. This one ends with justice.